Well, at least it's not Help, My Mummy's a Werewolf too, this again. Before we get to today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about Patreon. That's right, we are on Patreon now, and we have a bunch of tiers with a bunch of great rewards. You can subscribe and get things like early access to all reactions, depending on your tier, depends on which reactions you get early access to. You can vote on polls exclusive to patrons that will help determine future reaction series and more. You will get to just have various choices in terms of like getting to choose future reactions I react to, getting to choose first impressions I check out, all kinds of different rewards, and possibly more coming in the future. We're still new at this. We're still figuring things out. It's a process. It's a process. But we have multiple tiers, so whatever you would be able to donate, if you're able and willing to donate, is appreciated. It helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps us grow. It's going to help just, standardly. It's just something new to check out. Plus, if you like getting the reactions early, that's also a plus. But it is optional. If you're unable to do it, that's completely fine. All reactions will come to YouTube just a little bit later, a week later or so. So, that all being said, thank you as always so much, and let's get on with today's video. And with that being said, hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to My Mom's a Werewolf. And I do have to wonder if that, if those movies that were mentioned in Gravity Falls were inspired by this. So, for those who may have never watched Gravity Falls, there was an episode where Wendy and Dipper are watching like public broadcast horror films, and it goes through, I think it's in the credits sequence, it goes through it just lists a bunch of them, and there's two of them called Help, My Mummy's a Werewolf, like mummy, like a horror monster mummy, and then there's Help, My Mummy's a Werewolf 2, This Again. And I kind of wonder if those were like inspired by this movie. Now, this is a donation reward for Venom. Thank you, Venom. And I don't know what this is about other than just My Mom's a Werewolf. I've not really heard of this film other than the possible Gravity Falls reference for it. I assume it's probably pretty straightforward. It honestly, it sounds like a Goosebumps story, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, the thing is, if your mom is a werewolf, then that could mean you are one too. It depends on when your mom became a werewolf. If your mom was always a werewolf, then you would more than likely be one too. If your mom became a werewolf after you were born and everything, or even just recently, then yeah, obviously not. Unless she bit you. Now, I've talked about this before when we did like an entire werewolf week of films, I believe. But werewolf movies, I feel, are super underrated. You just don't get a lot of them compared to vampire movies. And I feel like werewolves can sometimes be just a little more interesting. Like, because we've seen everything that vampire media really has to offer at this point. I don't think I've like really heard much about like anything fresh on that. Like even watching something that's like really good, like the newer Nosferatu movie, it's like it's still the same old stuff. Like it's still just a remake of Bram Stoker's Dracula. But at the same time, werewolves are so like just not prevalent that there is more you can do with them, because there's just not been a lot done with them in the first place. And that's why there's so many werewolf stories that take like the designs and change them up notably. You have so many that change like exactly how their lore works. And there's like there's plenty of movies about it, but comparatively, it's just not as prevalent. And even games have gotten into it in recent years with the likes of The Quarry and all. So I'm glad that there's been more werewolf stuff coming out of the woodworks. We even got another movie coming uh, that's, I believe, being done by the same director as Nosferatu. So that could be fun. Um, but yeah, I'm just very interested to see what they do with that kind of lore in this, especially since this is clearly going to be like a comedy horror. It's going to be like on the more silly side. Excuse me. Ooh, at least I saw it coming. But it's going to be more on the silly side, more on the ridiculous nature of it. Um, Probably going to have all these like goofy situations where the main character is trying to like reveal the mother being a werewolf or trying to figure it out for themselves. Something like that. It's it's definitely got the vibe of like again a Goosebumps story, which I want to again make clear, not a bad thing. I grew up with Goosebumps. I still have a very fond memory for a lot of the Goosebumps stories. Like some of them may not have aged as well, admittedly, but some of them I think still hold up. I think the Haunted Mask still holds up. I honestly think like the werewolf ones still hold up. Like you have Werewolf at Fever Swamp and Werewolf Skin. Both of those I think are still really great. Like no joke. But but I'm very curious to see like what this ends up being like. I have high hopes for it. So I think we should just get this going. Um So let's see what this is like. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Welcome to the Afterthoughts. We'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, is it really any surprise that the director of this movie also directed a movie called Death Spa? I would say for me, it's not. But yeah, I looked up some things in between, as I typically tend to do. And there's not a lot that it shows in terms of reactions to this and, like, you know, reception. But apparently someone named Mike Pearson, it doesn't say who it is or what publication they might be from, but uh, wrote, "So what if it doesn't make much sense? It's tough to find a decent family-oriented horror flick that celebrates grins over gore." Um, and that's a really interesting way to put this because this movie is obviously just 90s cheese in a nutshell. But, or not 90s, 80s cheese in a nutshell. But I don't know if I would call this a family flick. Maybe it's just the difference between like the modern day and the 80s, but I feel like there's so many movies that were let me see. Give me a second here. It doesn't say here. Hold on. Yeah, this movie is PG. And that's so wild to me because this movie shouldn't be PG. This movie should absolutely be PG 13. This movie is not a family friendly film. There's a lot of sexuality in it. I mean, there's no nudity or anything. There's a lot of sexuality. The swearing is like notable. I mean, mind you, I don't think swearing is that big of a deal, but usually movie censors do. And I know it's the 80s. I know they got away with a lot more back in the day, but still. And again, there's not like a huge amount of violence, but I mean the sexuality stuff alone, not just between her and her husband, but between like the neighbor and everything and just various like shots around the film, and I don't know. It just didn't feel very family friendly to me. It felt like a PG-13 movie. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just modern sensibilities compared to how the 80s typically rated things. But like I wouldn't show this to anyone under the age of 13. I just wouldn't. I don't feel it's appropriate. Anyway, yeah, this movie was ridiculous and over the top and cheesy, had some like ridiculous stuff, and the 80s also had some things that didn't age well, using a slur to refer to a Romani person who, let's be honest, was a scam woman, clearly, even if she was right on one occasion. But the movie was fun. And I think that's what it was mostly going for. It was just trying to be like fun and ridiculous and silly. It wasn't trying to be anything like spectacular or well thought out. Because if you really think about this movie, there's some issues that could have like been fixed with it. The gypsy, I hate to say the term. I shouldn't say the term. The Romani woman. How about that? Let's like, I said the term very like. I said it like just very suddenly. I didn't really mean to. It's what they were using in it though, and I think that's why. I apologize. The Romani woman, when the daughter went to go visit her, why didn't we see that scene? Like, there's no reason they couldn't have shown us that scene and had more with that. Hell, there's more we could have seen with her friend trying to teach her about this stuff too. It feels like it glossed over a lot of the actual lore surrounding it and just gave us little snippets, including some things that just didn't really like. I don't remember that ever being part of werewolf lore, like the hypnotizing. That I do not remember that ever being a part of werewolf lore. That's a vampire thing. And they even mentioned things that are like specifically for vampires in the movie too, like the garlic, the crosses, the holy water. And it's like, and yet you have them have a power that's not typically associated with werewolves, and it's just like, okay, sure. And then the entire thing about like, oh, if you kill the werewolf who infected another, it's like you'll turn if the corpse of the werewolf isn't like exorcised or some shit. Like, what the fuck is that? I think that was just supposed to be like just a goofy like cliffhanger thing, a goofy like maybe like sequel bait kind of situation that felt very goosebumpsy but didn't really make any sense. It felt like a lot of the stuff in this movie was just like kind of just thrown in and didn't really make sense for a lot of werewolf lore. Like even just her turning during the course of the day and getting worse as the day goes on, to the point where at the end of the night it's like she's like full werewolf form. It's just, again, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It adds to the fun and the humor of the film, but if you really think about it, it doesn't make sense. That's not typically how werewolves work. there's also the aspect, and this goes along with what I was saying about this movie not really being appropriate for kids, that the guy who was trying to turn her was also trying to rape her to have, little werewolf babies. Like that's not appropriate. Like, this is not family friendly in any way. Like, just because it has a very goofy and silly tone doesn't mean it's family friendly by nature. Like, there's a lot more that goes into that. And then the ending felt like even goofier than the rest of the movie, with like the news reporter not letting anybody get a chance to speak, and then like saying, oh, they're so paralyzed, they're so terrified, so traumatized that they can't even speak. It's like, you're not letting them speak. They're trying to speak. And then afterwards, she also just like walks away. It's like, how can I report on this without anybody actually saying anything? It's like, you're changing your story like multiple times. I know it's supposed to be like a play on sensationalist news reporting and everything, but it's like, what? Like, that's goofier than the rest of this movie was, by far. Um, it makes a lot of sense that it would focus a lot on the mom, but it feels like the daughter and her friend really took a back seat. And it's like, I feel like for the movie being called My Mom's a Werewolf, I almost feel like the daughter should be more of a focal point. And it's like, I don't feel like she really had enough to her. The mom was the main character by far. The mom was like so heavily focused on. And that's fine for her to be focused on a lot, but the daughter needed more. Again, they definitely should have shown her talking with her friends, Stacy or whatever. They should have shown her talking with the Romani woman. There should have been just a lot more going into that. And again, I understand it's like, it's just trying to be a cheesy 80s horror comedy. I understand the tone of this is supposed to be silly. Um, but it's one of those movies where if you actually start to think about it, it might not be the most well made. Is it fun and enjoyable? Absolutely. And you can absolutely have a good time with it. Like, I had a blast watching this. But I'm not going to say it's like a great movie. I'm not going to say like it's super well made, because it's not. You can enjoy a movie that you acknowledge is not well made. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but your personal enjoyment of a movie is not necessarily equatable to the actual quality of the film. Those can be two different metrics. They can be one and the same. They absolutely can be. It depends on the person. But still, you can find a movie bad but still enjoy it. You can find a movie good but not enjoy it. I've reacted to movies on this channel that it's like, oh, this is a fantastic movie. I would never watch this again because it upsets me. Like, greatly upsets me. There's been plenty of movies I've reacted to like that. And there's a lot of movies that I enjoyed that I would probably never watch again because, again, they're not super well made. And it's like, oh, this was a fun, like, one-time watch, but never watch this again. Don't really have a reason to. And I mean, there's a lot of people who revel in watching bad movies because they're fun to watch sometimes. You think of something like Tommy Wiseau's The Room or The Birds, or Birdemic. Birdemic is what I was thinking of, not The Birds. Birdemic. Like, those are bad movies that are fun to watch because they're so bad they kind of wrap around into being enjoyable. This movie isn't quite on that level. It's not quite on the level of something like Birdemic or The Room, but it's one of those movies that is just like not that good if you really think about it. But from just pure enjoyment and fun, it's a blast. And so it's one of those movies that would be hard to rate because of that. Because it's like you almost don't want to rate it low, because it's like you enjoy it more than that, but you don't want to rate it too high because it's not worth it. So maybe somewhere in the middle, I guess. Maybe like a 6 out of 10 would be fair. But yeah, this is a silly movie. This is a pretty silly movie. It felt very much like a Goosebumps episode. It felt very much like just ridiculous fun. And I think that's all they were going for. I think the director was like aiming for that kind of vibe. Because again, this movie is literally called My Mom's a Werewolf, and it's like so tongue-in-cheek. So yeah. But yeah, I thought this was a fun watch. It was nothing special. It was nothing great, but it was worth checking out. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of My Mom's a Werewolf? And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.